I'm Martin Chilcott. I'm a business consultant and I also own a couple of businesses.
Could you tell me why companies call in a business consultant?
Right, yes. They might call me in because they've just acquired another company and they need to bring them on stream and remove people who aren't performing or reorganize to be more effective. Or it might be that they've changed direction and the way the business has been organized, the people in charge of different units aren't focused on the new customers and they need to be reorganised and realigned.
Could you tell me some of the clients that you work with?
Sure. I work with Manchester United PLC, which is, I think, probably the most fun engagement that I have for obvious reasons. I also work for a specialist sports photo business called MPIX.
How did it feel when you were first consulting?
When I first consulted, I guess I almost felt a little fraudulent, if I'm allowed to say that, in the sense that I was coming into organisations where people perhaps had certainly as much experience as me, in some cases more experience than me, and they knew their industry and their business better than I did. And I found it slightly strange. But what I brought to them was an objectivity, an ability to stand outside the politics, which they couldn't have because they were so close to it.
Can you talk me through the process of consultancy?
It's a very broad question, but I suppose there's a stage of problem analysis, then there's a stage of visioning the future solution that you want. So if a business is trying to move from A to B, the first thing you have to do is understand what's the problem in its current situation. The next issue is where does that business want to be? And you have to vision and articulate where that business wants to be. And then you have to step back and say, okay, how do we move it from where it is now to where it needs to be? I don't see myself as providing the answers, but providing the journey and facilitating the journey to finding the answers. They nearly always have the answers inside their head somewhere.
What kind of person makes a good consultant?
Someone who listens well, someone who can communicate well, someone who can be honest. But often a critical point is they have to be able to sell into their client facing up to difficult problems. So they need a certain amount of diplomacy. And underlying that, I take as granted they've got to have a reasonably analytical brain and a problem-solving brain.
How about being good at golf and drinking champagne? Does that come into it?
That might come into the networking. It might help you win business, but I'm not sure it'll actually help you solve the problems.
What do you like about the job?
I like the fact that, one moment I'm dealing with a small company of 30 people that produces photography for the sports industry. The next moment I'm working with Manchester United PLC, the largest sports business in the world, and talking about Sir Alex Ferguson and David Beckham and all these kind of issues. So you get a huge range, and that makes it very exciting, very stimulating.
And what are the difficulties?
One of the biggest challenges, I think, is assimilating a lot of information about a market or a business very quickly. You don't have much time, and you've suddenly got to get up to speed. And if you're like me, I've got a memory for names like a sieve, and you're suddenly thrown into an organisation where you're supposed to know 30, 40 people immediately, and you really don't want to get it wrong and call somebody by the wrong name or mistake a market or a customer opportunity. In my first business, I intended to sell marketing services to engineering companies. But what I found out was that engineering companies weren't interested in the marketing services I had to sell.
I try to solve a problem by remaining very positive and looking at all the solutions and working out the best one.
I like to relax by playing chess and drinking wine, but not necessarily at the same time.
I like to relax by doing yoga and going for long walks.